Hey guys, so I have a really nice treat for you this time. I actually got my hands on the pre-production version of Leshiy 2. Now first of all I have to thank EDgun and Francisco for getting this loan for me. As I mentioned, this is a pre-production version and I will mention this a few times in the videos just to make clear that some changes will be made to the production version, and I am getting my hands on the production version as well as soon as it comes out, and of course with that I will also release a video of a final product. Okay, so first of all, this is a cool thing, right? We all agree about this, right? So if you look at a recent history of air guns, we really got some cool products lately coming out. I mean, there is more and more of the compact and semi-auto options and special valve systems and things like that. And because of let's say the history and what's already on the market, I will spend a lot of this video make some comparison of Leshiy 2 with Huben K1, and that's simply because both of these guns have a rather unique non-conventional method of operation. So the valve system, although they are very different, they are still unique and unconventional, and both of them are semi-auto, both of them firing from the magazine, and they have very similar magazine mechanism overall in terms of indexing. Let's just start the video. So it makes no sense for me to go into any unboxing and things like that. I will just show you that I received this in a box like this, along with tons of accessories, spare parts, which is in terms of this video really not relevant, but the ones that are relevant I showed here. So let's just start with the gun itself and then we will get to the accessories. So as I briefly mentioned, it's a regulated semi-auto unique valve system PCP airgun that comes in different calibers. From what the parts I get here, because again this is a pre-production version, I have the 22 magazine, 25 magazine and 30 magazine, and 130 is also in the gun. I currently in this configuration, so for this video I have only the short 25 centimeter 30 caliber barrel, so I don't have anything else. So I won't be able to test these two, so 22 and 25 just yet, but I am getting those as well, and there will be videos when I get those to show you at that one as well. So with this setup, this is the short version and the short moderator or the shroud. I also got the longer shroud, which again, I cannot use it. I could use it, but I don't have the barrel for the longer version. There are some other modular things, or let's say interchangeable things, like for example right now I have a carbon bottle underneath. Now again, this is not the one that will be in the production version. This is slightly longer. It's slightly on the way actually when you put your hands on the grip, and this one is now 0.35 liters, and afterwards it should be a 0.3, I was told. But in regards to this bottle, you can also have an alternative, a smaller cylinder below and connection from that cylinder to top cylinder, which actually makes probably the most aesthetic version. But of course carbon fiber bottle does give you more air, and that therefore more higher shot count. You probably know Leshiy 1 if you're watching this video. So in terms of the overall look, it's actually very similar, with the huge difference in terms of being multi-shot, and not only that, semi-auto multi-shot, and also the valve mechanism, which is patented from EDgun and totally new. So let's go through the things you can see on the gun right now. So please don't comment this scope. I know it's a cheap one. It's just something I put there because it's the only small scope that I have available at the moment. So if we go from the back, of course, I should mention that you can have different colors of the gun, and as you can see here, I have 3 different colors of the magazine right on the table. So the red one, black, and also silver. So if we go from the back, you have the gauge here. Field port, it's a standard EDgun field port, goes in here. Okay, so you can you have a dust cover which you manipulate by rotating this knob, so you can field from any side. You can expose the field port either from this side or from the other side. This back side is a block of aluminum basically, and you have some checkering on the. It's sort of a rubber, 2 pieces of rubber butt plate, let's say, to make it a little more comfortable. These 2 cylinders are interconnected. On the cylinder itself, I'm not sure if this will come on the production version, but it's this sleeve which is actually really soft, so it makes a really nice cheek rest and you don't feel the cold aluminum. This tube is made out of 2 parts, and you can see here the split. And that's basically because now they made this to be unregulated chamber, and then you just unscrew this apart when it's not under pressure, and you can take the regulator out. So here sits the regulator from here on to the back a little bit, so you have a really good size plenum. The regulator is much smaller than it was on Leshiy 1, which is really nice, because with small cylinder you don't want too much space to be occupied by the regulator itself. And the regulator is adjustable. I'm not sure what the final version would be, but mine was set at 130 bars, and it had instruction and markings on how to adjust it to other pressures. So basically I adjusted right now it to 150. At least that's what I think. I don't have any way to confirm this. I can only adjust it according to markings, not to measure the pressure, because there is no gauge in the front end, of course. Not that you need it, but just for testing purposes I'm talking about. So when we go from this, we come to the brains of this machine, let's say. So I will just now remove this overkill bipod. As in Leshiy 1, you have an option to fold it, but now you do this with releasing this lever. So you pull this back, and then you can store it away, or let's say fold it. So like this. Sorry, I'm a little bit clumsy on the camera. And once you go to the full position, it's again locked, so you cannot separate it until you unlock it. And you unlock it with the same lever, and this lever actually acts on both sides. So if you see this here, latches for this rear part, and this is what locks it together when it's folded. And the other side, this pin in this part is what latches it together when it's unfolded, or let's say extended or ready to fire. So unlike Huben, this mechanism has this gun has a removable magazine, which is really nice. Of course, we all want this, because then you can have multiple preloaded magazines, and you can load it outside the gun. You can also take it out to make the gun safer, etc., etc. One more thing I should mention regarding the action, because as you notice, I kind of skipped it. So the action is actually in here, and this very small pin that you see here, hopefully you're getting this in focus. This very small pin is actually the valve. So there is no hammer here. Nothing hits this pin, this valve. Actually, only thing that happens is, if you watch this part, when I press the trigger, now I put it off safe, when I press the trigger, this part actually goes back. And this part actually only presses up against this small pin. and there is very small force needed after you press this small pin in order for the valve to automatically fully open and fully closed in very short amount of time. So that is the full cycle of this mechanism. Now I was specifically asked, because I did open the valve and I checked how it's made, and it's really nice, really clever engineering, I must say. But I was asked not to speak about it, about the way the valve works just yet. So for the pre-production version, I'm not supposed to talk about it yet, but as soon as the guns start hitting the shelf and you are able to buy it, then I will be able to talk about it, and I will explain it fully on the production version. I can point out that this part here is what catch the magazine and rotates it after the shot, so basically making it a totally semi-auto gun. So basically when you press the trigger, you are pushing this lever back, pressing on this small pin, which is the valve, and you can see the cut on the valve, so meaning that after you take a shot, that pin will move away, making it a semi-auto and not full auto, of course. And this will reset the trigger, and after the shot has been taken, it will also rotate the magazine, waiting for the next shot to be taken. So that's it. You will notice, if you have ever seen inside of Huben, that the actual magazine operation, so indexing, is really similar to Huben K1. You have the same bar that locks into the grooves of the magazine on the outside, which is basically every revolver operation, not only Huben, but the fact that it's rounded and the fact that it's a ball here, it makes it appear very similar. But the indexing itself, it's not the same as in K1. It's actually inside, and with this couple of teeth that it catches on and then rotates. I should mention that K1, you probably are aware of, has, I would say, shooting out of the magazine has its advantages and disadvantages. Biggest advantage is that you can always disarm the gun, and you can basically have a semi-auto operation without any more complex parts, so meaning that you would have to push the pellet in the barrel before you shoot and things like that. But it has its disadvantage, in my opinion at least, that you are actually having two parts of the barrel, let's say. So your chamber is actually the magazine, so you're firing from the magazine into the barrel. And this can cause sometimes, and with Huben this happened, for the pellet to get slightly damaged or have some problems with stability and things like that. Of course, with Huben there was also a couple of other issues which would later on solve. But if we pass this, I would say that this magazine has a little more movement when it's inside than Huben's does, simply because it's removable and you have to have some tolerances. But overall, in my opinion, the mechanism is actually really accurate and really precise. The putting in of the magazine is slightly fiddly because you kind of have to push down this locking mechanism, and easiest way for me to do this is to cant it a little bit and then put it like this in. So I think that with little practice, and especially if you're not doing it on a camera, it's quite easy to do. For taking it out, it will not... Sorry, this is the next time I have to show you, but I'm not there yet. For taking it out, you cannot take it out right away. It will catch into the little cuts here, and you have to rotate it halfway so it's in the middle state, and then you can just take it out. So taking it out is really actually easy and really nice. And since we are already at the magazine, I will continue now with the magazines, so you will understand them. So first of all, this front part is the axis on which they rotate, and they are made of two parts which are put together magnetically. They are made of more than two parts, but two parts that come apart when you load them. So basically what you do is take out the rear steel part which has slightly smaller holes than the front one, and then you put pellets in. I'll just get some pellets and show you. Okay, so I have the 50.1 grain pellets here from JSB, so the heavies. I would recommend probably shooting the lighter version here, the 44.75, but I will just demonstrate with this one. So basically what you do is take this steel top plate off, and you just put the pellets in one by one. I will put 2 of them in, for example. They will go in flush, and then you cover this up, and they have this grooves that it will actually align the holes of the magazine with the holes of the plate. And again, the holes on the plate are slightly smaller, so pellets will never fall out. So it's a clever mechanism, and it works well. I mean, no complaints there. It's good. And they also have an option. I'm not sure how if this is an optional accessory or you get it by default, to get this kind of holders. And what you do is actually you put this O-ring, this huge O-ring, and put it on both sides. And then you can put this, for example, like over here or something like that, to have spare magazines, and you can store them the same way you would on the, if you put it in the gun. So this is again a spring-loaded, plastic spring-loaded latch here, or that holds so that they don't fall out. Again, same procedure, rotate them halfway and then pull out. It's very simple, very reliable, so they will definitely not fall out and they will definitely work well. So let's return to the gun. So I explained this one as in detail as I am allowed to. Now let's go forward. In the front side, again, this is the mechanism for indexing. Actually, this is a mechanism for locking. The indexing is back here. And then you have a barrel, which of course has a forcing cone because it shoots out of the magazine. Now, one thing that you can do on this gun, if for example you would like to single shot, you can also load the pellet in the barrel itself, and you can then put the magazine in, close it, and shoot. Of course, in that case, the magazine should be empty, and shoot one by one pellet. Okay, so moving forward, over here is the latch that I mentioned before. So this one pulls this pin up, and then you can open it. And at the same time, it moves the rear latch down. So this one is for locking. So now it's locked. Now I press here and I can unlock it, and we are back in the extended mode. In terms of material, maybe I should mention, of course, obviously this is not metal, it's carbon fiber. Right now on the gun, it's actually their own grip, which is really nice because it's made of laminated wood and 2 colors, which is, in my opinion, really gorgeous. It is standard AR-15 grip, so basically you can exchange to anything else that you might seem to like, which is really nice also to be customizable. This bottom part, so the whole bottom part seem to be made out of plastic. And you have a short Picatinny rail in front, which is really nice. As I mentioned before, I fitted the bipod. Now this plastic seems really sturdy, and even if I use it for bipod, it doesn't seem to bend. So I don't see any issues there. Actually, I would actually prefer it being like this than aluminium, because this is much more forgiving for scratches and bumps and things like that. On the top, you have also quite a long rail. And this one is actually has built in some, I'm not sure how many MOA, but it has built on some slop to make it optional for using for a really long range. So I'm sorry, I don't remember the correct expression for this. So basically the barrel is like this and the rail is a little bit down, so you have extended range of your scope basically. And over here you have the screws for replacing the barrel, or so you can change the barrel for different lengths as well as different calibers. You unscrew this 4 and then you just pull out the barrel. The barrel comes in this configuration up to about here, and from here on it's the moderator. In the front, so the moderator, the shape, as you can see, it's still not round. I mean, it's not round anymore, but it's the hole, the barrel hole or the silencer hole is in the middle of this part. And I really like this design. It's slim, and it definitely does the job of keeping the gun really quiet. I will talk about power and loudness and different configuration in a minute. So really easy to replace. So for example, if you are replacing the barrel, you unscrew these 2 screws. I will not show in this video, I'll probably show it in the next one. Unscrew these 2 screws. Once you do that, the whole thing comes off. As you can see, this one has a loose screw in the mechanism, in the shroud right now. So this whole part comes off, and you end up with this much of barrel sticking outside. Then you loosen these 4 screws and then just pull out this barrel as well. Okay, so I think we've gone through the external part of the gun. Now let's go to a couple of different things. So probably most of you are, at least I was, most intrigued by the trigger and the valve mechanism, how this works. And I would say it works surprisingly well. I mean, not surprisingly well. I would say that I was surprised that the trigger is as good as it is, considering that you are basically have no hammer, you're just directly actuating on the valve. That being said, it's still not a really good trigger. I mean, you can imagine that a really good trigger has a couple of stages in between to make the pull as short as possible and as crisp as possible. This doesn't have anything, but still I would say that it's not a bad trigger. So if you look at it like this, I will not trigger one, so I will fire one empty shot. I'm making sure that the magazine is actually empty. Okay, I put it on fire, and now I will take a shot. So that's it. So it's I would describe the trigger like this. It's 2-stage, and it's of course non-adjustable. It is the pressure needed to release the trigger depends on the regulated pressure because of the way the valve works. But I would describe it like this. First stage, really light and relatively short. Second stage, I would put it like this. It's very short, relatively light, but after the shot is taken, there is a long travel on which you don't have control of. Basically, it will travel that far back. So I will do it again. So you saw how much I pushed the trigger back after the shot. And then reset. It's about here. Okay, I have it now again. So not perfect, but then again, not bad either. So that's on the mechanism. I would say that this valve system is really efficient. I don't have any figures for the shot count for you yet, as I only have this gun for about 1 day. I think I received it day before yesterday, and yesterday I was not at home. So I didn't spend that much time playing with it so far. But I definitely intend to. So I did, of course, try to shoot it, sight it in, and test it a little bit. It's really, really fun to shoot. Really small, compact, shoulders nice, and everything. So let's get to the parts that I like and that I don't like, because otherwise this would not be a review, right? So again, when I say everything of this, when I explain this, keep in mind that this is a pre-production version, and the production version will probably have most of these things improved in terms of the things I don't like that I will mention. And I already have confirmation for most of them that it will be changed or improved. Okay, so let's go through the things that I really like. Well, one of them is definitely the valve. As I mentioned before, it's patented by EDgun. So not only for this gun, I expect, and I'm sure that EDgun also does, a really bright future for this valve also in other products from EDgun. Second of all, it's of course it's semi-auto, and it's not only multi-shot, it's also semi-auto, I should say. This is something I definitely really like. I like the compact size, I like the looks, I like the way you handle it. Basically, not a lot of things that I don't like, but I do have some safety tips and concerns that I will express. And one of the first one is, I would say, the fact, and this is same for Huben, that this valve is always ready to fire. And of course, once you have this exposed, a relatively low pressure to this pin will actually trigger the valve, and it will make a full power cycle. That means that it will throw out this plastic seal that it's between the transfer port and the magazine. And I mean, for example, if you do this with your finger, you could damage yourself. So this is one of the things that you should pay attention to when you're handling this gun. I'm not sure how this will be in the production version, but it's definitely something to be noticed of. And second thing is that right now there is a safety. So I'm talking about the pre-production version. There is the safety that you cannot pull the trigger. So if, for example, now it's on safe, if I put it on fire, and now if the magazine is in the middle of the cycles, I cannot trigger the gun. It's the same as on fire, and as soon as it's on position, then the trigger is active. I will not take the shot right now, but just so you know. So this is nice. It's a safety mechanism that you cannot fire it once it is out of alignment. The magazine is out of alignment. But the thing that it's not made, the safety that is not made right now, is triggering the mechanism without the magazine. Of course, I will not do this now because it will just spit out the plastic. But right now the gun is hot, and it will fire out the plastic seal if I take a shot. So this is actually something I did as soon as I got the gun, but this is on me. I should be more careful in the beginning. So that's the second thing. Maybe right now, but again, this is again a pre-production version, and a production version it shouldn't be like this. This bottle is so long that it gets in the way of my hand. So I'm always pressing this part of my hand up against the bottle. And the last thing that kind of bothers me is this latch. When you press it up, it really goes high up, and because of this I cannot put this mount fully back. So I doubt that it's possible that any of the Picatinny mounts are so low profile in terms of the bottom side that you would actually be able to put it fully back and still have the full function of this latch, which of course you need. Without it you cannot even load the gun. So that's about it. Overall, I mean, these are minor things, and all of them, or most of them, some of them I already have confirmation that they will be changed and fixed. So overall the gun it's a really nice thing to have. I mean, really fun, really economic in terms of, so efficient. You can shoot really fast, semi-auto, high caliber, high power. So let's get to the power before I forget anything. So by default I had this regulator set, as I mentioned, to 130, and I did set it to what I think is 150 right now. With 130 and 50 grain JSBs I got 62 joules. That's what, about just over 40 foot-pounds, I think. So that's just under 200 meters per second. So it was 197 meters per second. I don't know really what's that in feet per second, probably somewhere around 650 to 700. I will put it in the, so you will see it on the screen. And with the, after I raise the pressure, I now have 203 to 204 meters per second with the 50 grains. Again, I will write this in feet per second and joules and foot pounds as well. And with the light one, which is what I would recommend to shoot in terms of 30 caliber, I got about 208 to 209 meters per second. And this is really respectful if you consider that 30 caliber in 25 centimeter barrel length. And with this, again, I will share with you the figures in terms of shot count later on. But I was shooting like 6 or 7 magazines from 260, 280 bar fill. So definitely a lot of shots, although this is a big bottle. So more tests will be done, and I'm sure that you will also get more information from EDgun himself. Okay, so that's it on my take on the Leshiy 2. There will be next part of the video which I show you even more information regarding velocity and accuracy and things like that. Make sure you subscribe and hit that bell button to get notification for that. Make sure that you check the links below, because in the links below there will be links to the sites which will keep you updated in terms of release date and changes and the features that will be on the end version. So thanks again to EDgun, thanks again to Francisco. Make sure you check the link below, and see you in the next video.